Feeling tired all the time, even though you eat clean? You're not iron deficient because you forgot your supplements. You're about to see how food, not pills, reverses this. She was active, a clean eater, and thought she was checking all the right boxes. But her lab work, well, it said something totally different. Anemia, low B12, energy crashing, and yet no one told her what the real fix was. Usually when I share these videos with you, I'm wearing my rancher hat. But a recent email from a colleague is going to make me put on my doctor coat before I start sharing information with you today from the rancher viewpoint. I'm Dr. Arlen Hill, and today I'm going to be walking you through a case that proves it's not about more pills, it's about putting the right food back on your plate. Allow me to set the stage, if you will. I received an email from a colleague about a 37-year-old woman. Her doctor had ordered blood work, and the results came back with clear signs of nutrient deficiencies and anemia. The woman had recently transitioned to a whole foods plant-based diet, and she felt good at first, but then she began to see a series of symptoms continue to persist. And the exact wording that was shared with me was from the colleague was, my immediate reaction is to her lab is to place her on iron, B12, multiple minerals, a mineral complex, vitamin C and P protein. And she also likes to work out weekly and asked if she could take collagen and creatine. I would appreciate your input. You know, I thought about this for a moment and I began to try to put some pieces together to try to figure out what can I share back that is going to be a very concise recommendation that he can share with this patient. And the thing that came to me as I read all of that was that, well, why doesn't this patient just consume adequate amounts of animal-based foods in the diet? That'll be a consistent source of iron, B12. It'll provide good levels of high bioavailable forms of other minerals like selenium and zinc, just to name a few. You're certainly going to have availability of creatine and collagen in there. And these are also going to be can be a source of vitamin C, although not huge, but it can be a source of vitamin C. And then he asked about the pea protein, and my thought is, well, let's give a complete protein. Let's use a source where we're not just giving the protein, not just giving an amino acid profile, but we have these secondary benefits of these biologically active peptides that are present as well. And we can do that with just making a few consistent food choices that all fall under the animal-based category. And as I began to walk through and look at these labs really told me the story of what was going on. The fatigue, the thinning hair, even just not feeling really good with the workouts, not feeling good at the end of those. And it makes you question, well, when I look at that whole food plant-based diet, where are these key nutrients? Where's the availability of the B12? Where's the availability of the iron at? It's not there. And as a result of that, it was very clear that this was one of the driving reasons for the low hemoglobin, which is one of the red blood cell markers. That wasn't just going to be corrected by just giving iron, which is often one of the reflexive recommendations is low hemoglobin, just give iron. We also need sufficient amounts of protein to support that as well. So why not just consume and build a foundation with food that is going to supply the key structures on a consistent basis coming in through this individual's diet, such that even when they go to supplement from a position like they're in right now, that they're going to even get more benefit from the supplementation. That supplementation is going to have a far greater impact when you have the right foods laying a foundation, when you have real foods coming in that are going to be high in bioavailable nutrients and they're going to be complete protein sources. That was what was missing from this conversation. And if you think about the recommendations that were provided, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There were 7 potential recommendations being considered here as far as supplemental recommendations, but yet with one crucial recommendation, one key recommendation, maybe to say it a little differently, many of these problems or concerns with this patient could have already have been turned and started to steer in a different direction. This wasn't a supplement issue at all. This was a food sourcing problem. And we have to stop seeing the supplement cabinet as a fix for foundational nutrition gaps. Supplements absolutely have their place. I'd be a hypocrite to tell you I don't take supplements. I do. But I have a foundational diet that I build my supplement strategy around. It's not just randomly taking supplements or trying to make up what I'm missing in my diet. I'm using supplements to fill maybe genetic limitations that I have, or when I'm trying to accentuate certain parts of my physiology to reach an end goal, to try to optimize brain function, or whatever it is that I'm trying to do. Those are the way that supplements should be considered, not as a way to bridge what you're not doing in your diet. So if you think about this nutrient gap, if you will, when you think about eliminating animal proteins, when she was thinking about eliminating animal proteins from her diet, her heme iron, her heme zinc, the B12, the creatine, the carnitine, the choline, all of these nutrients that are very inherent and unique to animal-based foods, they're all essential for energy production. They're all optimized. They all help optimize brain function and blood health. And it's just a fact. Plants don't have these nutrients. I don't know why this continues to be a point of conversation when it really shouldn't be. It's just black and white that the nutrients are there or the nutrients are not. And if they're not there, and as humans we need these to optimize our physiology, then why do we continue to debate about this? It's not a debatable conversation. And let me just pick one of these nutrients. When you talk about something like iron, it's often recommended to go eat spinach, and that's going to be a source of iron. Well, you can eat about as much spinach as you want, and it's not going to have a massive impact on your iron availability. You're still going to walk around exhausted. And if it sounds like I'm coming from a very dogmatic point of view, it's not meant to be dogmatic. It's just meant to be a factual analysis of what is and what is not in food. It's not that plants are inherently bad. Again, I would be a hypocrite if I told you that I didn't eat plants in my diet. I eat plants in my diet every day. But I also acknowledge what animal-based foods bring to the table. And I think that's the important part here, is that you have to be realistic in what nutrients are contained in different sectors of food, and how much of that food do I need to consume to optimize the facet of my biochemistry, of my physiology that I'm trying to optimize. And so when you go back to looking at someone like this patient, she could either double down on the idea that she just needs to diversify more plants in her diet and get everything that she needs, or we can take a more realistic strategy here and we can incorporate in food sources that are going to give the body back truly what it is missing. And again, just to acknowledge the supplement space again, the supplements can be an aid in these scenarios, but they just can't be the thing that you're leaning on. They're not going to bring the real solution. The real solution that this lady needed was getting more nutrient density into her diet. And for someone like yourself, if you're looking to try to optimize this nutrient density for yourself, well, why don't you go ahead and take a look at some of the beef and chicken offerings from Harvest Hills Ranch. These will fit your needs as well, and they're going to help you bring in these bioavailable nutrients that are going to bring you back your health and offset the necessity for supplemental nutrients that many think they need when they go to develop fatigue or anemia or something of that nature that might show up in their blood work. You can offset a lot of those concerns. Now, the thing that I have not addressed so far in this conversation is creatine and collagen. Those were two that were very specifically called out, that if you'll remember, that patient specifically asked that provider, what about these? Should I consume these? These are two very unique products, and fortunately these are only found in animal products. Is the only place you're going to find these if you're not using a supplement. But these can be extremely beneficial. And so these should be looked at as, whether either supplementally or from a dietary standpoint, yeah, sure, you can absolutely have these in place. You can use these. These can if you want to use these as what's thought about as an ergogenic aid, if you want to try to optimize to your maximal capacity and maybe consume more creatine than what you can get in your diet, then yeah, maybe a supplemental form works well here. But here's the thought on this, is that again, these supplements are not substitutes. And when you look at someone who is trying to take collagen or creatine, but they're not building a dietary foundation that's built on a consistent, optimal level of bioavailable animal-based proteins, if they're not at least checking that box first, collagen and creatine really aren't going to make that much difference. So, when you think about, well, how much money and time and energy would someone potentially invest in trying to use these substitutes compared to just making better dietary choices that included animal-based proteins that they consistently can use and put to work for themselves? Real health is going to start when you stop outsourcing your foundational nutrition to pills and bring back foods humans have always thrived on. And if you've ever felt like something is still missing even when you're eating clean, then watch this next. It's called buying pasture-raised chicken. Here's why buying direct beats store-bought. It shows you how food sourcing matters just as much as food choice.